Houston Council of Artadia, because when Solcombe came up with this idea about 2 years ago, she went to Judy, and Judy wholeheartedly supported it, and that's one of the reasons we're here today. So without further ado, I'd like to ask Judy to talk about Artadia and her role and what Artadia
Sure. And welcome to the house. And let me set the record straight. I told Solcombe, you have got to do this.
All right. She has a different story.
And the reason is that, I'm a huge supporter of Artadia. I'm part of the National Council, which is their, sort of like a board with people from many different cities that support the programming and are invited to, go on tours and see things. But the local is really where it's at. And the thing about Artadia that I am passionate about is it's about the artist. There's no other agenda going on. There are these amazing jury who have incredible knowledge, great standing in the community. They come to your city and they do studio visits. And I know so many artists who have said, I had never prepared for a studio visit before. This was the first time people are selected. It's a great honor even to be selected as a possible, recipient. And, then they visit, and I've had artists say to me, people who have been now in the art world for a long time, this was their first experience. It was their first opportunity. It's what launched them. And the thing about Artadia is that it's in communities where you wouldn't necessarily, in regions of the United States where there's a lot going on, where there's a huge burgeoning a group of talented people that aren't getting recognized. So you're launched onto a national stage. And it's not only just launched and left there, you become part of a community. There's a alumni thing, there's residencies, they publish catalogs, and there's a couple sitting around that you can see. So it is, it's just a beautiful gift when it happens to someone. And the fact that they're in Houston and have been for many years is great. Most of our artists in Houston who have been launched onto the national stage have done so began as Artadia recipients. And that goes for other cities too. McCabe was an Artadia recipient. I mean, it's amazing when you start looking at their sort of catalog of people that they've supported. Generally, emerging artists. Every once in a while, there is a mature artist that gets supported too. So it's an amazing thing. That's why I love it. It is for the artists. This is not about an institution. It's not about a organization. It's not about a board of fancy people. It's about the artists, and that's all they care about. So that's what I care about. And people who know me and artists here in town, like Lynn. I keep on pointing to Lynn, she's going to talk in a minute. But that gives me the greatest pleasure of all. And Aria, she knows also that it's just that's what makes this one of the things that makes this city so phenomenal is the art. And I want everyone to be supported. So that's why I do it. But I will say that there are a lot of people my age with hair like this that support artists. What we need and what it's your responsibility is to continue the legacy. Houston has a great reputation for local support and for really taking care of their artists. And we need to hand it over to you. It needs to grow. It needs to maintain its robustness, and that's up to your generation to do so. So it's not, should I do this because it's fun for me? Absolutely, it's fun for you, because anything you do for someone else like this really makes you feel good, but it's also your responsibility. So I would say, for each one of you, every one of you, this is what's so great, can make a difference in a program like this. And then, it just makes our community so much stronger. So go for it. And welcome. If you have any questions, you can ask me, but I was just asked how long we've been collecting, and about 20 years, and it's just a eclectic mix. There are a lot of Artadia winners in this collection. A lot. We collect a lot locally. So, yeah,
Great, thank you. All right, next I want to introduce Lynn McCabe, who's one of the Artadia awardees in 2008. She won the Artadia Award when it came through Houston that year, and in this nice little 08-09 CDs, 41 artists volume. She's right here on page 100 exactly. Want to introduce her, and she's going to talk briefly about what the impact of Artadia has been on her, and she may have some stories about the grants. Go ahead.
Okay, well, thank you, Judy and Josh, for the introduction, and Ashley for inviting me here to talk to you guys. I was sitting thinking about what I should talk to you about, and there's a million different ways that Artadia has impacted my life, but I think I should just tell you what I did with the money, and I used the money to learn how to walk tightrope. This is not a metaphor.
Can we get a demonstration?
I've had a drink tonight, but I was newly arrived in grad school. I just won the award, and I went off to grad school, and I was struggling with trying to figure out a way to balance being a single mom and being an artist, and the art world is not so kind to us women folk, and especially not so kind to the women folk with kids snarling every time you go to an opening. And so I was just really struggling with how do I continue to make my work, how do I do these things, and I got obsessed with these images of the wire walkers building the Golden Gate Bridge. Anybody who moves to San Francisco, I was getting my graduate degree in San Francisco, and anybody who moves there is completely, if you don't get enchanted by the Golden Gate Bridge, there's something wrong with you. So I went there to study social practice, and I remember finding out that the Golden Gate Bridge was sort of financed by all the people in San Francisco getting together and putting their properties up for a bond, a $31 million bond. And I went to my professor, and I said, I'm done. That's it. That's the best social practice there'll ever be. The Golden Gate Bridge. How can I compete with that? So I was trying to figure out how to balance my life, and I was looking around, and I've always worked with my body and sort of in front of the camera, and the idea of embodiment has always appealed to me, and so I started learning how to walk tightrope. I went to a circus school and was shouted at by a small Quebecian man for a year because I wasn't doing it right, and I was flinging my leg out and all these things, and he kept saying, "Sure you don't want to learn trapeze? I think you do better at trapeze." No, you don't understand. It's a conceptual piece of art. And so the piece that's actually in the book here, so if you want my banner right beside me, page 100.
I'm going to consider. You can hold it. I don't give that up very easily. So.
The piece that's in the Artadia show, this piece here, is actually a video of the performance that I ended up doing on the tightrope called 14 Hours, and it was a piece that I did where I recited a poem about me giving birth that I'd written, and every time I fell off the rope, I would go back to the beginning of the line of the poem as well as the line of the thing. And I sort of became enchanted with the idea of the line as this horizon point where two worlds, when you look at the horizon, it's like this classical motif and from the Renaissance going forward and painting and different other types of art that we have around us. And for me, the horizon line was this place where two worlds touched, and that's kind of what I felt like I was doing as I'm a single mother and an artist, was sort of bringing into conversation these two worlds and making them rub up against one another. And so through that, I sort of became, you could fill that. I became really invested in the ideas of conversation, and I started having these events at my house and opening up and running sort of basically a gallery out of my house, again to sort of bring into these two worlds into conversation. And for me, what conversation sort of symbolized, or what it means to me, is a space where you get to sort of grapple with meaning, right? I'm Scottish, I have words that mean certain things in my culture and my understanding about won't make any sense to some of you, and we could, you know, in conversation we get to discuss and come to terms of what those meanings are. And that's, to me, is kind of what the best art does, and that, you know, when you have money behind you, you have the opportunity to make the best art that you're going to make, rather than worrying about how you're going to scramble and pay rent and all the rest of it. And one of the things that Artadia allows artists to do is to sort of focus on the work and not have to worry so much about the finances. And so I'm very grateful for that money for the, you know, seemingly trivial idea of, you know, learning how to tightrope walk, because it became the central sort of motif that then has continued. I'm out of grad school now 4 years, and I've had a museum show here, and I have work that's travelling in a show that's just was at Sight Santa Fe and different things, and they all, I'd say, are sort of, the work has continued to sort of come back to this idea of conversation. And in fact, now my practice has taken another turn, and this is what's so great about, as you say, what happens in this community, because it's such a supportive community to local artists. I now have backing, and I'm going to be the new director of a space in Montrose, where hopefully I'm going to be bringing into conversation different pieces of time-based art with materially, you know, concrete pieces of work. So for me, the conversation continues, and that's why I was so happy to come here and do this, because I'm always up for conversation. So if you want to have a conversation with me afterwards, come and thank you all for coming.
Well, so that brings us to the part where I get to talk for just a few minutes, which is why are we here? And I think the reason we're here is the Houston Council has been up and running for about 1.5 years now, and what we want to do is we want to invite other people to start helping us engage the Houston artists who are Artadia awardees and who may in the future become Artadia awardees, to join our group, to help support them, to help fund some of these awards that are given, and to generally participate in this great Houston art scene and supportive art scene that we have here. So I think there are, and if everybody who's a sort of council member or one of the originals, could you raise your hand? So there are a number of us around the room who started this group about 1 year ago, and we've been doing a lot of studio visits and other art-related programming throughout the city for the past year. And this is one of our first membership drives. And the reason each of you is here is because one of us said, this is a person that I would really like to join this group, to start seeing each other on a monthly basis, to talk to artists or to visit some great art site in Houston. And you've basically been hand-selected because somebody thought, these are the people that I want to be engaging with over and over again. And these are the people who, you know, if I don't know you, who Josh, I think, would like a lot, or who actually would like a lot, or who would like a lot. People who are going to become sort of part of our fabric as a scene as we continue forward. So the goal is to have each of you join, and we really hope that you will. Hope that you'll support great artists and become part of our network. So that's why we're here, and we know that today a couple people have already joined. And so we want to say, you know, thank you for that. And the great thing, as Judy was indicating, was it's not really about institutions here. It's about the artists themselves, and the money goes to the artists and it goes to the awards, and we want to keep that tradition going here in Houston. So thank you all for coming. We have some membership materials that we can give. Make sure you get it before you leave, and you can obviously fill it out here, which would be great. We also have some materials to discuss the events that we already have planned through the end of the year, and will continue into the new year. So hopefully you'll join us, and we're thankful that you all are here.
Josh, can you mention when the next round is here in Houston? I think
It's
this is
next
an off year, right?
This is an off year. It'll be next fall sometime. We don't know the exact date when it's going to happen.
So it's every other year that the jury visits Houston, makes their primary selection, which they then do by slides, the first round, and then they actually come and visit with a noted curator or director or something of national note or international note, and they do individual, half an hour, I mean, they're long studio visits, intense studio visits, and then they do an evaluation. So
Yeah,
It's a biannual thing, and our next year will be next fall. So it's a really exciting time to get started because you can really see the whole process, and you will get to meet the jurors too, and that's really interesting. They're incredible people, so it's a real opportunity to meet the people making the decisions.
That's absolutely right. It's a very thoughtful process that goes into selecting the awardees, and Judy's right. I should have mentioned this. The time is perfect because you'll see that process occur over the next year until the awards are awarded at the end of next year.
Yeah, and then there's a celebration. It's a very exciting announcement when it's made because most awardees may know like a couple of hours in advance, but not any more than that.
Not any more than that.
Yeah, so it's really fresh, and so they all kind of show up there and they're like, so it's very, it's sort of like a game show, but it's really exciting because it's really genuine. And the one other thing I was going to say about the programming is that, this core group is a nice, really great size. And I think that the members of the, host committee would say what's really great too is to take your ideas about what to do. And you can have really impact on the development of a schedule and activities instead of just having someone dictate to you what you want to do. If you say, no, there's this great artist in Baytown and we've got to go there. It's like, great, okay, let's go. So
that's absolutely right. I think I was just telling one of my friends, David, that if he wants to have an event where we're bowling, we can.
Yeah,
that's
right. There might be some artists that could come and decorate bowling balls. So anyway, it's a really, you can design your own programs, and that's what's so great because it's a very flexible and very, agile group, and you can make happen whatever you want to. So I would endorse getting in there, becoming, a supporter. It's really about becoming a supporter of all of ours with some fun people. Sorry, I'm too geriatric. But enjoy, have some more drinks, just stay for a while, having some more snacks, and of course these guys will be available for questions. There's a couple of these around.
Yep.
So you can take a look.
Check them out, but feel free to ask any of us who raised our hand earlier questions about why we're part of the group and what it means to us.
And
Thanks.
we won't let you out the door without signing up. Everyone has, what does it call it, the bucket thing? The bucket challenge if they don't.
Oh,
sign
the